speaking of musicianship, um, the one thing that I guess about the Beatles, and I think that I'm sure that there are many listeners here, and I'd like to get to a nitty-gritty type of questions and get that out of the way so that we can proceed into other areas. The Beatles and your relationship and your projection as far as they are concerned, because we still get letters. They are broken up, and it's more or less, sometimes people hear news, sometimes they hear just smattering of news, and I felt that there's no one who was closer to the situation and more involved. And I thought perhaps you'd just tell us what the present status is as far as the Beatles and their career and your own involvement.
Well, the most amazing thing about this trip is that I haven't been to America since there was those strange rumors about them breaking up. And I didn't really know how big this rubbishy rumour had got out. It was all beyond and above the five of us. I didn't realise that. I was coming over on the aeroplane, and the hostess, who was very pretty and very nice, came and sat down.
That's nice.
And the first thing she said was, well, they're breaking up now, aren't they? And this was fait accompli, One thought she had decided that this had happened in her own mind, and what are you going to America for?
Mm-hmm.
But this wasn't true at all. There was no breakup, it was just a rumour. And I thought that I scotched the rumours in London with various announcements, and even the boys said, there was nothing in it. And I even got them not to say anything about it because it was all so stupid.
Well, the one thing which you probably didn't realize, and I remember, there was always a rumor each week about the Beatles back in the more hysterical days in 64, 65, and printed stories about Paul getting married, and of course him ending up being the only one that hasn't been married. And so that most of the time on the air was trying to find out what the true facts were. But here it really had developed to a point where I was even starting to be brainwashed. They had talked about, well, you're no longer going to be connected, and they're going their way. And there was a story here last week in a magazine or in a newspaper. It was in a newspaper, which stated about Paul saying, well, it's all over for us now. It's definitely over. And he's going to be spending his time in a recording studio making records and puttering around the house and all that kind of jazz. And then the rumors got into more within the trade and went into the public about the fact that they had a new manager, or they weren't going to have a manager, and maybe they were going to make a picture, and that all of these things about George going to India and doing a whole bit there with the sitar, and that he was hung up on Indian music, and that John was going to do a picture and follow a career as an actor. And so I think that it's about time that I think that people should know what has happened. I mean, what has taken place in the past, say, month or so with regard to new contracts and all that kind of thing.
The last month or so is quite different from the last months or so. I think they had a very hard time last year, touring-wise. I think it was the hardest ever, because we visited countries which we'd never been to before. Japan, the Philippines and all that broke out there, which was very difficult and very hard, and I accept responsibility, but it was actually none of our faults. And then we had the American tour and the Christ business, which was sort of a thing which was taken out of context, which we were all very worried about. So that I don't think that it's wonder that any of them, after that, took what you might call long vacations. Paul did, in fact, write a film score. George did go to India for several weeks, and John did make a film, which is very good, by the way. And even Ringo wanted the time just to spend, to contemplate. But This is all over and changed, and they're working very hard actually at the moment.